Alright, in this segment I want to cover some of the more advanced ways you can navigate using the zoom, orbit, and pan tools while using the move tool or while using some of the other drawing tools. And you can see as you get more and more stuff on your screen, you can see why it's so important. And like any drafting program or drawing program, it's important to be precise. So you want to be able to make use of those navigating tools while you're in the midst of something. Let me give you a great example. So I'll start with a rectangle tool, start from that origin point and draw a rectangle. Go to my select tool, double click, right click on that, get a group. And at this point this should almost be becoming second nature. You don't even have to think about it. Double click to open that group up, go to my push pull tool, click once on that face, click again, and right click to close it out in space. Now I'm going to move this what I want to do is I want to take this shape or this 3D box and I want to duplicate it, but I want to move this from using this point here, and I want to duplicate it so that this point sits on that point back there, and I want to be really clear that I've got it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my move and copy tool, but I want to navigate in the midst of that. So let me make sense of that by going to the select tool, selecting what it is I want to move, go to the move tool, click once on this point, and remember when I hit my, in this case since I'm using a Mac, when I hit my Alt Option key, I get a duplication. If you're using a PC, it's going to be your Control. At this point, I'm going to just start saying my duplication button or my duplication key to duplicate. So just remember that it's Alt Option for a Mac and Control for a PC. Any questions about that, we can of course cover it some more, but I don't want to keep having to say Mac versus PC. So I've started that command, but I want to be really clear that I've gotten back there and that I've hit that point. So in the midst of this, without clicking, using my mouse on the screen, but if I just go over here and I click on the orbit tool and orbit around like this, and then click on the zoom tool and zoom in, and then hit escape, I haven't interrupted that move gesture. So I can now reference from that point to that point and hit click. So let's try this again. I'm going to orbit around a little bit, and this time I'm going to take it from, let's say I want to match this point here, and I'll go ahead and orbit around, to the midpoint of this line down here. So if I'm looking at it from here like this and I'm starting with this point, there's no way of seeing that while I'm doing this. So I have to be able to navigate while I'm moving. So let's go ahead and go to my move tool. Since I already have this selected, I'm going to select the point I want to start with, which is this corner. So I click once and I'm making a copy again, so I hit my copy button. And now I'm going to go to my orbit tool, orbit around so I can see that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on it a little bit so I'm nice and close. It's very, 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 very important to be very comfortable with moving around and making sure that you're really confident with every movement you make. Almost all of the problems that beginners to this program have are because they're a little bit too tentative and afraid to move around while they're working, and they get kind of stuck in one view. Getting stuck in one view is what causes quite a bit of problems. So I'm going to go ahead and, now that I've found where I want to be, I can hit escape, and I still have my move tool activated. I haven't finished it because I haven't clicked again. If I hit escape again right now, I will lose it. But because I've only hit escape once right after using my navigation tool, I still have the move tool activated. So now I can find that midpoint and I can click to that. And as I zoom back here, I can see that I've gotten it exactly where I want it. So let's go ahead and orbit around. One other thing that you can do is you can use this kind of more advanced way of navigating to create, or you can use it to your advantage, and you can create copies that go up into space. So let's say I want to duplicate this relationship here that I've got between these two. So I'm going to take but I want to duplicate it down into that direction. So I will start with this this shape here, and I'm going to go to my move tool, and I'm going to click on this point, and I'm going to hit the Alt key. And again, I want to make sure that I'm really close there. So I'm going to go over to my orbit, orbit around, zoom in a little bit, and hit escape. Still have the move tool activated. So I can click to that point again. Now I can zoom out a little bit and do X4, enter, enter. Oh, you know what? I can't do that, and I apologize. The reason I can't do that is because the zoom tool interrupts that. So let's start. Let's forget what I just said. I don't want to re-record this. So let's just do that same thing, but looking at this rectangle here this shape from this point, I'm going to start by using this as a reference point, and I'm going to click once with my copy button, and I'm going to go from this point on this one to this point on this one. So it's creating that exact same relationship. Click. Now I'm going to do ×4, enter. I can't use that navigation tool in between those two steps, and it's a good reminder for me because sometimes I forget that. So the only time that you can't do that, where you actually do cause an interruption, is if you're in the middle of trying to make multiple copies of something. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that. So let's do a zoom extends here, and let's look at that whole thing. So what I've basically done is I've created that relationship going all the way down 4 more times from my original. So get really, really comfortable with clicking on something to move it and using your orbit tool in the middle of that, orbiting around to where you want to go, hitting escape. You'll notice that it still stays with you. So keep that in mind and use that a lot because you're going to have to, especially when you get into more complicated models.